Hello and welcome to my Eye of Azshara Heroic Dungeon Guide. My name is Velok and let's get started. So here we are at the front of the dungeon where we're just pulling some trash. The trash isn't too difficult. You have some casters there, he'll do some magic damage on the raid, and I'll even try and heal the other trash, so just keep them interrupted. And any AoE stuns in general will help out the healer here, because the tank can take quite a bit of damage, as you can see. The first boss here is Warlord Parjesh. He will do a few abilities, but none of them are particularly difficult. He will summon some adds. There will be a Shellbreaker, which is a melee add that will do a Bellowing Roar, which is AoE damage on the group, but it can be interrupted. But if it does go through on the group, it will also give him a stacking damage increase. There will also be a Crest Rider, which is a caster. It will just cast spells on their single target, and they will also put down some healing circles, but both of these can be interrupted. Now, the boss will also do a Crashing Wave, which he will charge forward and deal damage to anyone in his way, and he will also leave some pools of quicksand that will do some damage and slow anybody who stands in them. And the main mechanic of this boss is he will cast an Impaling Spear, and he will just target a player and throw a spear at them, but you can see where he's targeting by the arrow in front of them. What you want to do is just try and get this arrow to hit the adds instead, and it'll stun the adds and deal quite a lot of damage. But that's, even if you do get hit by it, it isn't the end of the world. You can just simply heal through it. Other than that, he will just do a bleed effect on a random target, and he will enrage at 30%. So once he is dead, he died pretty quickly because the DPS in this group is quite high. So we just move on to the rest of the dungeon now. We are moving on down to Lady Hate Coil here, so we're just killing some trash along the way here. A lot of the trash in this dungeon can be avoided, so we are pretty much doing this run with minimum trash clearance as much as possible, but there are some you can't avoid, such as these Arcanists. They don't really do a lot. They'll just cast on the tank, and they will also try and do a polymorph fish, which, as funny as it is, you turn into a fish and start flopping around. You should probably interrupt it, but the cast time is quite quick. If it does go through, your healer can dispel it, so it's no big deal at all. Trash doesn't really do a lot of damage. As you can see, the tank is just dropping a little bit. There's some light AoE damage, but nothing to really worry about. So as we move on here, we're coming down to the boss area. This is Lady Hate Coil. As you can see, there's a lot of these sand mounds on the encounter area. Don't stand in those until the boss casts an ability called Static Nova. This will deal high AoE damage and apply a 5-second stun to anybody who's not standing on the sand mounds. So once you see her casting that, move on to the sand mound and just stay there until it's over. The reason why you want to move off afterwards is because of an ability called Focused Lightning. This will hit all players for a small amount of damage, and it'll also destroy any sand mine you're standing on, so that's why you don't want to get those destroyed, otherwise you might run out of them to stand on. The boss will also do Beacon Storm, which summons some adds. They will explode when they die, but the damage isn't too severe, so you can safely AoE them down, but they do apply slow, so keep an eye on that whenever you're trying to move on to the mounds. She will also do Crush of the Witch, which puts a debuff on people. After the debuff is dispelled or expires, it'll do some frontal cone damage, so just keep faced away when it's about to expire. And finally, she'll do Monsoon, which is those white tornadoes there you seen a moment ago. They will just do damage, and they will follow players around, and they will just knock you back. If you do have them, they kite them into the sand mounds, they will also destroy the sand mound, so try not to do that, because you want to have as many available as possible to jump onto, especially if you do happen to get some destroyed by the lightning. But nothing too difficult, pretty simple enough. The only other thing worth mentioning is if you leave the boss arena, you will take high damage, so you want to stay within the boss's little arena there. On to the next boss. It is Serpentrix. What you need to do is clear some trash here. There's a lot of trash around that is patrolling, and on top of that, the boss will also submerge under the water and come up at another random place here, so you don't want him to pop his head up and have a lot of trash surrounding you. So just do that, clear around the trash so you don't have to worry about pulling anything extra during the boss fight. Trash isn't too difficult. These Stormwake Hydras will do some lightning attacks that will kind of bounce around, so just keep out of the circles. The hard shells will do some frontal cone damage, like they'll throw some sand in front of you. But as long as you avoid the lightning, it shouldn't be too difficult, I should say. But onto the boss. This boss is really difficult. There is a lot of AoE damage here, so it is probably the hardest boss in this dungeon. So you do want to be using some damage reduction if possible throughout the fight, and I'll explain why. in just a moment. We're just going to finish clearing the trash here. I think this is the last piece of trash we pull, which is just another Hydra, and you can see how the lightning bounces around there to just avoid those as much as possible. And we're getting ready to pull the boss here, I think. So the idea of the boss is he will do some poison spit. This will put some green circles on the players. You just want to avoid those as much as you can. There is a wind mechanic to this part of the dungeon which will periodically activate, and it'll push you in a random direction. So it makes it harder to move, but the wind direction will make the projectiles of the poison spit move faster or slower. The boss will also do a toxic wound, which debuffs a random player, and they will leave poison on the ground where they walk for a few seconds, so just keep moving. And at 66% and 33%, the boss will submerge and 2 heads will spawn. There will be a blazing head and an arcane head. The blazing head is the red one and just spams wee fire damage on the group, and the bluey purpley one is an arcane one which spams a single target arcane blast at a random target, and this deals 50% more damage every time it's cast. You want your DPS to focus and kill these heads as quickly as possible, or else the damage gets out of control. You can see what happens here in my group, as you can see the health bars going way down because the DPS here isn't killing the ads, so it's really difficult for your healer. So please try and kill those ads and use any damage reduction you can. They don't have much health, just a few million, so they'll die pretty quickly. And if nobody is in melee range of the boss, it will do damage to the group, so keep that in mind. So with that boss dead, we are moving on through the cave here. We just have to kill some more trash. Nothing too difficult. They're not even elites, I don't think, so you can just kill them pretty quick. They'll do some poison damage on the tank. But other than that, it's not too difficult. Then we move on to King Deepbeard. We have 2 giants here. One of them will spawn these water circles into the ground, and the other one will stun you for a short time. So just be careful, after you come back from the stun, you move as quickly as possible to avoid those circles. King Deepbeard here, he has a few abilities, nothing too difficult. He will do a ground slam, and that is a large circle in front of him. It'll deal a massive amount of damage, and it ignores armor, as you can see there. And so just move away from it, tanking any melee. He will also do a Quake ability, which does damage to everyone and anyone within 4 yards or 5 yards of that player. And then after a few seconds, where the Quake landed, where you were standing, it'll erupt and do some more damage. He will also cast Gaseous Bubbles, which puts a shield on a few different players. The shield absorbs about 500,000 damage. If the shield is not broken within 20 seconds, it will explode and deal damage to the raid. So the way to break that is by another ability he does called Call of the Seas. As you can see, these circles moving around a lot. There's quite a lot of them. What you want to do is if you have a shield on you from gaseous bubbles, you want to stand in these circles to try and break the shield off you, so you don't do damage to the raid. Standing in one probably won't do it, so you want to stand in a couple that are overlapping if possible, because that'll break it off really quickly. For a healer, the damage isn't too bad. Don't be afraid to stand in one of these circles here if you need to cast a heal, but do avoid standing in, if there's 2 or 3 overlapping each other, then you'll really start to notice the damage. So try and avoid that. So with Deepbeard dead, we move on to the final boss trash. The final boss is Wrath of Azshara. We just have to clear some trash here that are channeling the boss, and doing so will remove some health off the boss. The boss has like 200 something million, so for each of these ads you kill off, it'll reduce his health even further. The trash doesn't do anything special. They will try and polymorph fish like the previous mobs did, and some of them will also apply this Arcane Orb. This just follows a player, and the Arcane Orb will slowly fall towards the ground. So you just want to dispel that player, and the orb will be left off where the person was dispelled from. And after it hits the ground, it'll deal damage and stun anybody in the area. So just dispel it and move on, and don't stand in it after it's been dispelled. So nothing too difficult. The last boss is quite a lot of abilities. 11 in fact, 11 total mechanics to the fight, so I'm going to start going over them now because there's so many of them. He will start with a frontal circle, massive frost circle that deal a huge amount of damage and knockback, so don't stand in that. After he reaches 10% of his max health, not 10%, which sounds quite low, but it's actually quite high because his max health is 200 and something million. So at about 25 million health, he will cast Cry of Wrath. This just causes a lot of weather effects to appear. You'll see lightning strikes, you'll see tidal waves moving around, and you'll have the wind blowing you around making it really difficult to cast heals and generally move. He will do the same arcane bomb as the trash did, so again, just dispel that and move on. But there is one important thing: when you take damage from any ability, you will get a debuff depending on the type of damage you take. If you take arcane damage or nature damage, you'll get a stacking damage increase from those types of magic, and if you take frost damage, you'll get a stacking slow, as you can see in my debuffs there. These abilities are permanent, these debuffs are permanent, so you will need to be very careful not to get hit by many abilities, if any at all, if you can avoid it. So try not to do that. Anything else of importance is Crushing Depth. He will put a debuff on a player, it'll be a circle around them, and after a few seconds that player will take 60% of their max health and damage, but the percentage is split among every other player within 12 yards, so try and group up to minimize the damage. And throughout the fight, every time the boss melees the tank, it will do raid-wide damage, so that's just added to the extra list of jobs your healer has to take care of. But other than that, it sounds like a lot going on. It really isn't. It's just the fight's over pretty quickly if you have high DPS, and you just need to pop some healing cooldowns very likely. But I do want to say you shouldn't really be spread out too much. Try and stay relatively close together so your healer doesn't have range issues, because the area is quite big. The Dungeon Journal did mention something about mystic tornadoes that are supposed to spawn next to players and deal damage, but we didn't see them in this fight. But that is everything, so I hope you enjoyed this video, and this was the Eye of Azshara on Heroic difficulty. So if you want to see more videos like this in the future, feel free to subscribe, and thanks for watching.